Hey there everybody, my name is Jess and welcome to another game review. So this last week I just finished Luigi's Mansion, just in time for Halloween and in time for the sequel, which is actually being released on that same day. I don't think I'll be able to get it right away, but I hope I get it someday, because I really want to give it a shot, because I really like this first game. But before we jump into this review, let's quickly go over the scale that I use when I rate games. Each game will be rated in 7 different categories: gameplay, characters, replay value, music, atmosphere, graphics, and story. Each category contains subcategories worth 5 points each. The highest total a game can receive is 100 out of 100. I will also give each game a difficulty rating from 1 to 10, which will not contribute to its overall score. So let's start at the top with gameplay. So the first subcategory there is controls. Just like with Second Sight, in my Second Sight review, I feel like the GameCube just sort of suffers from really tricky control schemes. For the most part, it's pretty straightforward. A just interacts with everything, but your most critical skill in the game is using your vacuum, and it's actually pretty tricky to master. It requires using both control sticks at the same time, but they're for different purposes, and it can actually be really, really hard. Plus, on top of that, you have to switch between your flashlight being on and off. And so it can be a bit difficult to grasp the concept, and even as a veteran to this game, I still struggle with it a little bit. So I would say controls are 3 out of 5. Your sense of direction is actually very easy. Every time you pick up a key, you know exactly where to go, because you have a very convenient map. And your map also tells you which rooms you've completed, and which rooms you've been in but haven't completed, and which rooms you've never touched. And even though the mansion is quite large, it's actually really easy to find your way around. So, most likely, you're never going to be lost. 5 out of 5 on that one. Ease of travel is next. Going from room to room is typically really easy, especially after you clear the area, because the ghosts are gone and they don't bother you anymore. However, when it is still dark and they randomly spawn and scare you, it can be a little bit of a nuisance. It's annoying, but it's not hard. So I would say ease of travel gets a 4 out of 5. My original scale has a leveling system next, but since there's no leveling system in this game, I'm going to replace it with boss fights. There are 4 main bosses in this game, and the fights are relatively simple and straightforward, but each one is also fun and unique in its own way. I would say the exception here is actually Boolossus, which was the giant boo that split into like a million different little boos when you popped it on the statue. And while the concept for the boss is actually really cool, I hate the fight itself. It reaches a point where you actually have to get lucky if you want to make any progress in the fight. Because the boos run away, when you get down to a really small number of boos, they start running away from your vacuum, and they're almost impossible to hit. And I really hate luck-based fights. They just aren't very much fun. But all the other bosses are really good. So 4 out of 5 on boss fights. Menu navigation. Menus are really easy. You hit start and your options are continue and quit. That's pretty much all there is to it. There's really nothing to criticize here. And the maps and everything are super helpful, and they're really easy and to understand as well. So those are great. 5 out of 5. Absolutely no problem there. So let me see here. Gameplay gets a total of 21 out of 25. That's pretty good. Let's move on to the next one, which is characters. Development is first. Honestly, there really isn't a lot in the way of character development in this game, but I don't think this game is really designed to be character-based. It's more about the mansion and the exploration. I suppose we can say that by the end, Luigi's braver than when he started. He does seem a little more confident, especially when he plucks that Mario painting right off the wall. He just seems way more confident than at the beginning, even though he does still freak out pretty easily. Professor Egad doesn't really change a lot. That's pretty much it, so unfortunately it is a bit of a low score. Character development is not terribly prevalent in this game. So that one's a 2 out of 5. Backstory. We're given the backstory about the house. You know, he wins it in the competition that he never entered, it's haunted, his brother disappears, now he has to save him. Yeah, that's pretty much all we need to know. Plus, we already know Mario and Luigi are brothers. Everybody knows Mario and Luigi. Mario's typically your hero, so Luigi does get a moment to shine here after being in his brother's shadow. So, Luigi's history seems to be a little bit more of the wimpy of the two brothers, so he gets a chance here. Even though, so the backstory is straightforward, simple, 5 out of 5. Can't complain about that. Relationships get established actually really early on in the game. So Luigi's obviously the hero, and then we have Mario, who is his brother, and Luigi's obviously very devoted to his brother and loves him a lot. Since he's willing to go through a haunted mansion to save him, I'm not sure I would do that for really anybody. Professor Egad is introduced as the mentor, who is very proud of Luigi and guides him throughout his journey. So relationships between the three main characters we have, it's 5 out of 5. Contributions to the story, well, Luigi's role is quite obvious. He's sort of the main character. It's called Luigi's Mansion. Mario plays a big role as well, even though we really only see him a couple times. He's the driving force of the whole thing. I mean, Luigi's here because Mario done got himself kidnapped. And then Egad provides the tutorial segment at the beginning, and he also gives helpful information as you proceed. So all of the main characters had a really big role in this game, which is great. There's not a lot of games where all the characters really contribute that well. 5 out of 5. So the score here, this is characters. The score for characters is 18 out of 20. That's awesome. Let's talk replay value really quick. So, I actually think this game has a lot of replay value. I've played it many, many, many times. I'm not even sure how many times I've beat this game. There's so many, like, little secrets and things to discover, like watering the plants, or learning how to beat all the different gallery ghosts that are everywhere. So there's just little fun discoveries everywhere, and I feel like it's one of those games every time I play, I find just a little something that's new. So, replay value gets 5 out of 5. Music comes next. First is memorability. I absolutely love the music in this game. It's a nice, fun, sort of spooky little tune, and it follows you through the entire game. And I mean, it's so good. Even Luigi whistles it along while he whistles along with it while he explores. And you know, your music is awesome when your main character is singing along. So 5 out of 5 on that. The contribution to the atmosphere. The music actually does really well creating the atmosphere for this game. It's spooky, but it's not scary, which is what they were going for. This isn't meant to be a horror game. If it really was a horror game, it would not have a soundtrack like that. It's meant to be a fun experience, not a really horrifying experience. And I think it nails it. 5 out of 5. So music has a perfect score of 10. Let's discuss atmosphere, since we're kind of already there, just talking about music. So first is emotion and feelings. Does this game make me feel things? Not deeply. I mean, I feel a sense of enjoyment while I play. It's fun. The reunion is touching at the end, but I wouldn't say there's really an emotional connection here, besides nostalgia. But when I do game reviews, nostalgia does not come into play. So I have to give this a 3 out of 5, simply because it's just pure enjoyment. Immersion. This game's never really been all that immersive for me. It's more of something that I sit down to play casually if I just need something that's kind of fun to play, and I don't want to play something that'll stress me out. So if there is any immersion, it's a lot lighter than most games that I've played. This game is just more for fun than anything else. So not really much in the way of immersion besides just the fact that it's fun. So it's a 2 out of 5 for that one. So unfortunately, atmosphere got like a 5 out of 10. Oh dear. Okay, now let's talk about graphics for a second here. Style. I actually really enjoy the style of this game. It keeps everything light so that this game never gets too serious. The combination of the graphics with the music do really well. And also, the more cartoony style just ages better. If you go with strict realism, it doesn't tend to age as well. So a little bit of style definitely helps with the aging of a game. Considering how old this game is, it actually looks pretty good. So I'm gonna give the style of these graphics a 3 out of 5. Again, we're back to immersion. But again, the immersion kind of lacks here. But it's not really meant to, like I said before, it's not really meant to be immersive. And lighthearted games are just a little harder to be immersed in anyway, at least in my opinion. It's designed more for enjoyment than anything else. I do have to say though, I do appreciate the addition of the lightning that flashes when you're in the dark hallways and rooms. I think that's actually a really great touch. So that will give it a couple points for a 2 out of 5. So the score for graphics is a 5 out of 10. And now, we've reached the most important piece of any game, for me, which is the story. Let's talk about pacing. I actually think the pacing in this game is really good. You never get bored. There's always ghosts like jumping out at you, or a secret to find, or a boss that you gotta suck up in your vacuum. So it's really great fun. I feel like this game easily could have gotten very boring. And I think the fact that it's a kind of a shorter game actually really helped with that. If it had gone on much longer, it might have gotten a little boring. But I think the length was perfect for what they had. So that gets 5 out of 5 for me. Engagement. Simple story. Good characters. Unique bosses. Scares. Great music. I'd say this game's pretty engaging. Plus you have the desire to collect as much money as you possibly can. So I'd give that a 4 out of 5. Pretty engaging with all of those pieces put together. Originality. This game's actually pretty original. The not-so-heroic brother thrown into a haunted house that he won in a competition he didn't even enter, and now he has to save the hero brother. I actually really like it. It's very simple, and sometimes the simple stories are the best. 5 out of 5. How the world and the characters change. Well, the house is constantly changing. I mean, that's the most obvious piece. Every time you clear a room or an area, the mansion gets safer and it gets brighter. So the world absolutely changes as you proceed. The characters really don't change a lot though, so I do have to dock a couple points for that. But change, I'd give it a 3 out of 5, absolutely. So here for story we got a 17 out of 20. We got pretty decent scores all the way around. The final score for this is an 81 out of 100. That's a really solid score. Now, I do want to see here... Metacritic gives it a 78, so pretty close. I'm a little bit higher. GameSpot gave it a 7.9, which would translate to a 79 on my scale. So again, I'm right in there with the critic reviews. Some of the reviews are a little higher, some are a little lower, but overwhelmingly positive reviews on this game. I absolutely love this game. If you have not played it for yourself, I would absolutely recommend that you give it a shot. It's really fun. It's a nice quick play. It makes for good casual play, which I thoroughly enjoy. I like to casually play. I enjoy casually playing through games. And I really hope that Luigi's Mansion is just as good as this one was. So, that is my review for Luigi's Mansion. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And I'm going to be starting a new game soon. I should be dropping another hint pretty soon, so make sure you leave a guess if you think you know what it is. If you'd like to see more of my videos, make sure you follow my Facebook. And I also have a Twitch, and I stream on both platforms when I get a chance to. And until I see you next time, happy childhooding.